administration. And I deeply respect and appreciate his work. It continues today because the liberties and freedoms we cherish in this country should be carried throughout the world. And as a result of Senator Brownback, he's brought great focus to this issue, and we commend you, sir, for your leadership, and thank you for being with us today. U.S. Senator Sam Brownback.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate that very much. Welcome. Glad you're here. This is the first time I've been in this actual hall. It's a gorgeous place, and I'm sure you're having a great meeting at it and with it here. Robert, thanks for hosting this and for inviting me to be a part of this. This is a great topic. Some people may look at it and kind of wonder, well, how do these topics tie together? How does religious freedom and security work together? And I want to submit to you, and I want to defend this proposition, that without religious freedom for everybody, you're going to have huge security problems and issues around the world that will be the clash of civilizations and that will lead to genocide in some cases. That without, and I want to defend this point, without religious freedom for all, for everybody, everywhere, all the time, you are going to have huge security problems that will be the clash of civilizations and will result in genocide in some places. And that's, I think, really what's at stake. It's one of those issues, Robert, and those of you here, that you look at on the outside and you kind of going, is that really in our wheelhouse? Is that really about security? And yet it's one of these foundational pieces to it that you have to get right. And if you get it wrong, you're going to have a great deal of problems and a lot of difficulty. And I'll point out why that is. Thank you for being here. Those of you from out of country, welcome to the United States. Delighted to have you here. We don't have any COVID here, so you can take your mask off if you want to. And
We'll get arrested.
I'm kidding. No, I'm not. I'm kidding. We got, unfortunately, COVID is everywhere, and I don't know if the mask helps. I'm not going to comment. I'm glad you got it on, and leave it on. I've got mine off, but it's a terrible crisis, and we're just going to have to keep wrestling with it as we go on down the road. I do want to make one comment too at the outset. Yesterday we lost a favorite son of our state. I'm from Kansas, and we lost Bob Dole. Some of you over the years may have met him at different places. Senator Dole died at 98, lived a rich life. Was a fabulous giant of the U.S. Senate, giant of U.S. politics, really lived the American dream and also was the iconic figure of the World War II generation, which we will often refer to as the greatest generation. They fought off fascism, fought off communism. He put his own blood on the field in Italy in World War II, was heavily wounded there, lost the complete use of one of his arms and side, and just kept going. Was dogged. I talked to him on the phone probably about a month ago. I was supposed to go by and see him, and it was right after Colin Powell had died of COVID related, but he was in a weakened state, and so I didn't go because I was afraid I might have COVID and give it to him because he was just in a weak state, but still just sharp, engaged, concerned about what was taking place in the world, we lost a giant. He was an amazing contributor to this country and to global peace and security around the world. My guess is in a number of your countries, actually, he'd worked on topics that were important. Let me start by reading the basics here. This is Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I've just got one brief paragraph that I want to put in front of you. Passed in 1948, sets out the basic human rights that everybody in the world is entitled to. The countries that signed on to this, 192 member states of the UN, all have signed the agreement on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Here's Article 18. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his or her religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Everybody has that right to practice freely as they see fit, in community and individually, and this was signed by 192 member states. I call it a foundational right, and I believe it is the foundational right upon which you can build the human rights project globally. I also believe that because it's been so attacked in so many places around the world, you're seeing the entire human rights project have a bad couple of decades because this right has been so undermined by so many regimes around the world. Pew Research has that 80% of the world's population lives in a country where religious freedom has significant restrictions. 80% of the population of the world in restrictive countries. Now, why is that? Why is there so much persecution for people of faith? And what's been happening around the world is the majority faith in a country, in many places, persecutes the minority faith in some way or shape or form. Often will happen. Well, here are the top reasons that most people give for why we have so much religious persecution taking place in the world today. And this is from Thomas Johnson. He's a senior theologian, advisor at World Evangelical Alliance. It says, number one, Islamic oppression. Tries to bring a country under Islamic control through violent or nonviolent means. Number two, religious nationalism. Tries to conquer the nation for one's religion. Sometimes Christian or Jewish, often Hindu and Buddhist or Buddhist. Ethnic antagonism. Sometimes very long-term conflicts among ethnic groups, often with a religious component. Denominational protectionism, trying to protect one's Christian denomination as the only legitimate expression of Christianity in that country. Communism and post-communist oppression, attempts to control religion through a system of registration and oversights. Secular intolerance, tries to eradicate religion from the public domain or impose an atheistic form of secularism. Dictatorial paranoia, does whatever to maintain power. Or organized corruption and crime, tries to create a climate of impunity and corruption as a means for self-enrichment, are the top reasons generally listed for why we have the level of religious oppression in the world. So my question to you today, with all of those factors and all of those various groups that are happy to oppress religion, who stands up for religious freedom? Who actually stands up and fights for religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time, as a common good? Does the West stand up for religious freedom? Yes, but it's interested in many topics. Does China stand up for religious freedom? No, it's one of the heaviest persecutors in the world of everybody of faith and of all types of faith taking place. Is Russia? No, it's really more protecting one or two areas. Islam? No. Developing world? Some yes, some no, but not broadly. What we need, and here's where you come in, and I'd like to ask you to do this and to think about this, is a global grassroots movement to stand up for religious freedom. You heard earlier today from Ambassador Richmond about human trafficking, and there's now a global grassroots movement standing up against human trafficking and all form of human trafficking. We need a global grassroots movement to stand up for religious freedom, and the bumper sticker for it's very simple. We stand for religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time. That's our standard. It's for everybody. It's everywhere. It's all the time. And we need that to move forward. I think it really should be driven by parliamentarians. I think it should be driven by the faith community. And it should be every faith pushing for this, because every faith that's a majority faith somewhere is a minority faith somewhere else. The problem with globalization that's taking place is now faiths are running into each other in places they didn't used to be before. So this used to be the area of the world where Islam was. This used to be the area of the world where Christianity was. Here's where Buddhism was. Here's where Hinduism is. Well, now in the global community that we have, everybody's running into each other. And now people that are Hindus are saying, what are these Christians doing here? And the Muslim community is saying, what are these various faiths doing here? And this community is saying that instead. And what happens then when that takes place, if I could add, is you get this clash of civilizations, because civilizations are generally built upon a religion, not exclusively, but mostly built upon a religion. And so they're kind of the expression of how this religion lives out. Well, now you've got people coming in from different types of faith all over, and suddenly you start looking at him saying, I don't like this guy. He thinks differently than we do. Who is this? I've lived this. I grew up in a small rural community. We had 250 people in my hometown. We lived in the suburbs. We were 1.5 miles out of town. And I remember we would take our livestock to market, and then we would go afterwards, we would shop, and my parents would say to me, look, he's a Jew. And really? What's a Jew? I mean, growing up in this small rural community, everybody's a Christian that I know of, or they agree with Christian principles. Here's somebody that's different. And it was kind of like all of a sudden I'm going, am I supposed to be nervous? What's supposed to happen here? Is this bad? Is this terrible? No, he's just different. Well, he needs to have the ability to be able to practice his faith freely, and that has to be protected if we're going to have an integrated world. Or otherwise, you're going to have people saying, no, we need to run him out of town. And indeed, that has happened. In the area where I grew up, the Mormon community at one point in time was just north of where we were, about 60 miles, and literally got run out with guns. Now, this was 100 years ago, till they moved to Utah. But that happened, and that will continue to happen in various places around the world if we don't stand up and fight for people's religious freedom. This is what happens. You're different, and I'm scared of you, and I'm going to run you out. Unless people actually stand up, and not just in laws, ladies and gentlemen. Laws are important. We need to pass laws, but it has to be by the action of the state standing up and fighting for this. While I was governor of Kansas, I had a Hindu man that he was with some friends at a restaurant bar. He goes in there, a guy's sitting at the bar, looks at him and says, I don't like you. I don't like what you look like, because he looked different. He was ethnically different. Guy went out and got a gun and shot and killed him. And there was another guy, who was a Christian guy, stood up to him, got wounded, and took him down before another one came. And I, as governor of Kansas, was embarrassed that took place. I mean, this happened in my state. A guy shot somebody else because he looked different and killed him. We took, and I had public statements that I put out that I stood up and said, this does not represent the state of Kansas. This does not represent who we are as a people. We're going to prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law. We did. He's in jail, going to be in jail for the rest of his life. And we went at very aggressively saying, this does not stand for what we stand for, and fought and pushed against it. Now, I'm embarrassed that actually happened, but it did. And the key is not to just say, let's just kind of shuffle on along here. The key is to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. We have laws against this. We are going to use those laws against this. We're going to prosecute this individual, and we will not tolerate this kind of behavior. And that's the role that governments are going to have to do and to take for us to be able to address this issue. It is also going to have to be something that we're going to have to do in having movements. Now, I threw out the G word, genocide, earlier, and saying to you, if we don't do this, we're going to have genocides. Look at most of your recent genocides in the world, and they involve religious minorities, of the recent ones that have happened. We declared one of the Uyghurs in western China, in the Xinjiang province, did at the end of the last administration. That's of an ethnic, mostly Muslim minority. being persecuted by a communist government in Beijing. The Rohingya Muslims in a Buddhist country in Myanmar being persecuted, at least crimes against humanity, if not a genocide that's taking place there. The Yazidis and Christians in northern Iraq that took place 7-8 years ago. These were religious minorities that there was an ethnic cleansing of, and it was a genocide. The Armenian genocide that was recently cited by this administration that happened at the turn of the century. The Balkans having much religious persecution based taking place there, and of course the granddaddy within the modern era is the Jewish Holocaust by the Nazis. Every one of these had a major religious component, if not the driving factor. And I want to submit to you right now that if people don't get on top of this in the Africa Middle Belt, right now you're going to see an enormous amount of fighting between Muslims and Christians taking place in the continent of Africa. And it's shaping up right now. There's a radicalized Islamic militant convention taking place in northern Nigeria and the Sahel, where these radicalized groups are coming in, and this is the next caliphate. And they're going to drive it based on their definition of Islam. And they're killing people now, and they're going to kill a lot more. This is the clash of civilizations that's happening, and it's a new tribalism, or old tribalism, however you want to refer to it, and it is happening now, and we're going to see a lot more of it if you, as parliamentarians, as people interested in this topic, don't really grab a hold and say, this is a key topic, this is a foundational piece to this. I hope you will. I want to tell a simple story about this just to try to drive this point, and I know it won't translate well to a number of people. We're in the height of football season in the United States, and there's a number of people that point out to me, you use your hands with your football. How do you call it a football? That's not a football. I mean, I get it, but we call it a football. One of our legendary coaches was Vince Lombardi of the Green Bay Packers. He would start his season off every year with holding up a football in front of his professional players here, and he would say to them, men, this is a football. That's how he'd start the season's training off, because he wanted to always start with the basics. One of his players that was an all-pro lineman said, Coach, slow down. I'm not catching all of it. Give me a little more time. My point in saying that religious freedom is the ball. It's the foundation. It's the piece that you can build freedom of assembly. You can build freedom of speech. You can build other human rights on top of this one. But if you get this one wrong, it's like there is a right to persecute virtually everybody in the world. 80% of the world claims of faith. If you get this one wrong, virtually everybody can be persecuted. Virtually everybody. And it's also a hard one to stand for. My faith is very important to me. I follow Jesus. This is really important to me. But if I don't stand up for Islam and people's right to practice that faith, if I don't stand up for Buddhism or Hinduism, then I'm not standing up for religious freedom, and I'm not really standing up for my own right. And this isn't about a common theology, everybody. And it isn't about religion. It's about a common human right. It's about a basic human right. It's not about a religion or theology. It's about who I get to choose to be. Robert gets to choose to be who he wants to be, and it's the most sacred decision I make. It's what I choose to do with my own soul. And that, in my estimation and ours, that's a God-given right. It's not one that government has any right intruded upon. So if government doesn't have a right to intrude upon it, what is the government's responsibility? It's to protect it. It's to see that everybody has this fundamental right to do with their own soul as they see fit. And this is completely foundational to the human right experiment around the world. And I think the reason we've had so much trouble with human rights and the decline of human rights around the world, which I think we've done poorly on the Human Rights Project the last 20 years in the world, is because we've ignored this one. You ignored your foundation. You ignore your foundation, the whole house falls in. We've got to get this one right. What to do? Let me wrap up with this. Religious communities need to stand together and be active and heard, and to stand for each other's religious freedom. We need Christians standing up for Muslims, Hindus standing up for Jews. We need every different faith standing up for each other, and to stand up for atheists and their right to choose nothing. You can choose, that's your human right to choose as well. So we're establishing, and there's a number of people working on establishing religious freedom roundtables in 100 countries around the world. And these are roundtables of all different faith communities coming together to stand up for each other's religious freedom. You can go on the International Religious Freedom Secretariat website if you want to establish a roundtable in your country. Like I say, we're trying to get 100 of those stood up, of these international religious freedom roundtables, and we need them in every country to stand up, and these are all the faith community coming together to stand up for each other's right. Western governments in the developing world need to push together for this. We now have an International Religious Freedom or Belief Alliance. This is some 33 countries now that have formed an alliance to stand up for international religious freedom or belief. And your country can join that alliance. International Religious Freedom or Belief Alliance. And you can go again on the website and look that up to see if your nation is a part of it, or if they want to join that summit. There'll be the foreign ministers from these countries and around the world will come to Great Britain this coming year, July 5th and 6th, for a foreign ministers meeting on international freedom of religion or belief. We need to gather together. There's going to be an International Religious Freedom Summit here in Washington, D.C., June 28th to 30th this next year. Peter Burns is here. Peter, would you mind standing up? Peter is the executive director of that. If you're interested in attending, or if you have speakers, we bring forward speakers from all over the world to that to talk about religious freedom. You can contact Peter. We need grassroots activism, speaking out, drawing attention to this. In your own country, there's a March for the Martyrs that started and taking place in this nation now regularly. We need political activism in the West in particular, but everywhere. We've got a National Committee for Religious Freedom that Sean Wu is here. You want to hold your hand up or stand up? That's working on that in the United States. We need to push that. And finally, and I want to end and then just briefly bringing up Dr. Ikon Erdemir. I'm sorry, I was getting your last name right. Ikon Erdemir. He's a former member of the Turkish Parliament. He's now working Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he's on the International Panel of Parliamentarians for Freedom of Religion or Belief. So here's a group that parliamentarians are a part of to join to stand for religious freedom or belief. Doctor, you want to come up and just tell a minute about the IPP4 group as we close this up?